Hey everyone, I'm Laura. This is Puzzle Peaches. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's puzzle, something a little bit different, something I've never done before. This is a murder mystery puzzle. I love things like murder mysteries, escape rooms, and of course puzzles. So this one is combining the two. Pretty interesting. This one comes from an alphabet murder series. So what they do is they have a puzzle for each letter of the alphabet. I got B for birthday because this was my birthday present to myself. It has some stuff on the back here. This comes from TDC Puzzles. Haven't heard of that one. It says ages 14 to adult. Murder jigsaw puzzle game. You read the story, assemble two puzzles, and solve the murder. So on the back, it gives a little breakdown of how it works. It says, first you read a story that outlines the crime, and then you're going to assemble two 500-piece puzzles that represent the before and after evidence of the crime. It says it's easy enough, but there's no picture for either puzzle, not on the box. This has nothing to do with the actual picture of the puzzles, no poster inside, and the two 500-piece puzzles are actually all mixed together, so you have no idea which pieces go with which puzzle. Sounds pretty challenging. I think I might have to make this a two-part video. It might take me a little while. And it also says after the puzzles are finally assembled, there is still the baffling murder mystery to be solved. So I think it's kind of funny. It says on the back here that it's for ages 12 to adult, but then on the side it says 14 to adult. I don't think it really makes a difference, but it's just funny they have the two different numbers on there. I ordered this one from Puzzle Warehouse. I don't remember how much I paid for it. I would have to go back and check. Really excited to do this one. A little bit scared. I think this one's going to be hard for me, but let's get into it and we'll see how it goes. Making a temporary escape from his mountain of evening paperwork, Detective Ben Spade pulled into the Donut Delight. His mouth watered as he opened the car door into the brisk night air and stepped into, squish, canine poo was the farthest thing from the chocolate Bismarck he was envisioning. Son of a... Spade's tirade was cut short by the ring of his cell phone. Doggone it, what do you want? He snorted into the phone as he attempted to scrape his offended shoe on the curb. Detective Spade, came a voice over the cell. You all right? This is Officer Kennelly. He could barely be heard over the sound of barking dogs in the background. Yeah, I'm just peachy, said Spade. What's all that racket? It was a birthday party, a bunch of professional dog breeders, until one of the humans turned up dead. They all brought their dogs with them. Lousy mutts, muttered Spade. You don't like dogs? Not at the moment, he growled. Give me the address. Still donutless, Ben Spade parked under the portico of a massive seafront mansion, the rear side of which was virtually overhanging the rocky shore below. Officer Kennelly met him at the front door. So what have we got? Asked the detective. Carrie Fleetick, male, aged exactly 60, took a header off the balcony. It looks like he might have jumped. There was a table pulled up to the railing with one of his shoes on it. He may have used it for a diving platform. It's about an 80-foot drop, landed on his head. The guy was exactly 60? Yeah, answered the officer. It was his 60th birthday party. He was some kind of big shot judge at that Grand National Dog Show next week. The hostess and the other guests are all prominent dog breeders with entries in that show. Is that why they all brought their prize poochies with them to dinner? Asked Spade. It's weird. They treated them like humans, gave them party hats and all, chuckled Kennelly. How many two-legged people were in the house? Inquired Spade, with a hint of sarcasm. Besides the deceased, there was the hostess, the cook, and 3 other dinner guests. I have the 5 of them gathered for you in the living room, said the officer, trying his best to appear efficient. All right, let's get started then, said Spade, as he wearily trudged down the lavish hallway. As Spade entered the cavernous living room, he noticed various people and dogs sitting nervously on the expensive furniture. Just as 3 of the dogs began sniffing his shoe, a middle-aged blonde woman holding a lace hanky to her eyes approached him. I am Heidi Kibble-Munchin. Such a tragedy to happen in my home, she said with a slight sob. Is there somewhere private we could speak? Asked the detective, while he gently nudging a curious basset hound with his doggy-scented foot. Yes, of course. Please follow me, offered Heidi. Leaving the others behind, the hostess and the detective settled into wing chairs on the 2-story private library. They were soon joined by a massive St. Bernard. That's some dog you have there. Must be close to 150 pounds, said Spade. 175, said Heidi, but he is my little precious tiny tot. He's by my side constantly. Is it all right? He can stay, decided Spade, as long as he stops slobbering on my shoe. Spade continued. How did you know Mr. Fleetick? He was an old friend of mine, ever since I started to breed the big dogs, over 20 years now, recalled Heidi. When I realized he was going to turn 60 right before the dog show, I had to have a little party for him. Was the party going well? Everything was wonderful all through dinner. We all loved dogs, so the conversation was quite lively. Everyone gave him a birthday card, and we had a cake for him. He seemed a little embarrassed when we all sang, with the dogs howling and all. After he cut the cake, we all adjourned into the living room while Miss Pedicure, my cook, cut slices. What happened then? Harry, Mr. Barker, the Yorkie breeder, suggested we gather all the dogs together for a picture, wearing their party hats. Everyone was quite enthusiastic about it, except poor Carrie. He thought the whole idea was stupid and announced he was going out on the balcony for a smoke. Spade pondered his next question. How upset was he? Did he seem overly depressed or despondent? Oh no, he was just being Carrie. He was high strung and opinionated. Sometimes you just had to let him alone. Spade got to the point. When did you first suspect something? After the picture was taken, we went back to the dining room and he failed to join us. I went looking for him on the balcony and I saw. She began to sob. Take your time, ma'am. I saw a shoe on the balcony table. When I looked down at the ocean, I saw poor Carrie. She was now sobbing on every word. Just one more question. Was everyone present during the taking of the photo? Yes, she said, regaining her composure. Everyone except Carrie was in the living room, and of course, Miss Pedicure, who was cutting the cake in the dining room. Thank you, Miss Cable Munchin. Could you please rejoin your guests and send in Mr. Barker? A short, portly man in his late 50s shoveled into the room with a tiny 4-pound Yorkshire Terrier running circles around him. He plopped himself into a wing chair as the little creature began to sniff at Spade's aromatic shoe. Spade glared, causing the Yorkie to jump into his master's lap and only then begin to snarl. Mildly amused, Spade continued, Mr. Barker, how well do you know Mr. Carrie Fleetick? Call me Harry. Not that well. He's judged my little Digit here on 3 occasions. She has over 12 championships, but none of them from Carrie. Oh, you just had to love that guy, stated Barker, a little irritated at the thought. Sounds like you two had some problems in the past. It's just the dog world. Carrie was an important judge. No matter how smiley everyone was around him, you would have a hard time finding any breeder that wasn't holding some kind of grudge against him. I don't know of anyone who is that close to Fleetick. When was the last time you saw him tonight? Asked Spade. When he left the living room. Poor guy, I wonder who will get custody of Susie, his basset hound. I'm sure she'll be well cared for, Spade assured him. Thank you. Could you please send in Miss Pedicure, the cook? Ivana Pedicure was a woman in her late 60s. She was stooped and walked with a slight limp. Did you know Mr. Fleetick? I used to be a breeder myself, of fine standard poodles. I'm the one who got Carrie Fleetick started as a judge. And now you're a cook? Asked Spade, sensing some resentment. Miss Heidi gave me a job after I lost the kennel. 1 or 2 bad showings was all it took to lose everything. I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I am only one of many who would still be in business if it wasn't for this narrow-minded opinions. Mrs. Pedicure, did you notice anything unusual this evening? Everything seemed normal, lots of sucking up to Carrie as usual, since they all had dogs competing in the upcoming show. There was one thing, though. When everyone was in the living room posing the dogs, I heard someone outside. It sounded like a man shouting. What was he shouting? It sounded like down fast, down fast. If it was Carrie, I guess he got his wish. He went down, and fast. Spade jotted a quick note. Was there anyone else in the house or on the grounds? Every single person was in that living room except Carrie. That'll be all, Ivana. Please could you send in Mr. Fetchit? Willie Fetchit was a slightly built man in his late 40s who looked like a before ad for a 90-pound weakling. At his side was a large muscular black Doberman with extremely intense eyes. Citizen, Willie said softly, and the dog immediately sat, motionless. That's the most obedient dog I've seen today, complimented Spade. My Schnitzel here is not just a show dog. He is trained by the German police. He has many obedience and agility ribbons. Spade continued. Had Mr. Fleetick ever judged Schnitzel? No, not as of yet. He had judged many of my other Dobermans, not with such great results. He was a very tough judge, but fair. You got along well with him then? I didn't know him well at all. I thought tonight would be a good chance to change that, but I guess that will never happen now, said Fetchit, with a slight note of disappointment. You were in the living room with the rest of the guests for the picture taking? Yes, said Fetchit. Then I went to the dining room for some cake. That's when all the commotion started. Thank you. I have no other questions. Could you please send in Mr. McLeish? Ty McLeish looked like Winston Churchill, a foot shorter and rounder, his sweaty jowls only matched by that of the bulldog that followed him into the room. As McLeish slowly lowered himself into the wing chair, his dog began chewing on Spade's shoe. "Nice dog. Now go away," yelled Spade. "My Brutus is such a good boy," said Mr. McLeish, coughing between coughing spells. "I'm sure he is. Your Brutus ever been judged by Mr. Fleetick?" "Several times, never with much luck. He was a hard man, that Fleetick, never impressed by how many ribbons a dog had achieved. He lost us at best in show at Westminster, had the nerve to congratulate us on second place. Do you think he had a reason to commit suicide? Like a lot of us, all he had was his dog, the Basset Hound. But I can't see him simply leaving her like that. She was just in the next room. It's unbelievable." "Were you in the living room for the dog picture?" "Yes, we were all there except Fleetick. He left his dog with us for the picture, but Fleetick went outside. When they were done posing, I went back to the dining room, where the cook was kind enough to give me a third piece of cake." "Thank you, Mr. McLeish. You may join the others in the living room." As McLeish labored out of the room, Officer Kennelly entered. "A few things aren't adding up," said Kennelly. "We found some small blood stains on the balcony table. Is that all?" "No, the coroner said the head trauma from the fall was the cause of the death, but he had some tears on his jacket and some puncture wounds on his arms that were not consistent with the injuries from a fall." "Are we absolutely sure that there was no one else in the house or on the grounds?" "Absolutely confirmed," said Kennelly. "The only ones here besides Fleetick were in the living room or dining room." "Well, we've already stepped in it this time, unless maybe we have to consider everyone in the house one more time." Spade thought for a moment. "Have the evidence on my desk in the morning. Tell everyone not to leave town. If this wasn't a suicide, we might have to make a caller." We're done the murder mystery puzzle. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was actually pretty easy to put the pieces together. The after puzzle was a lot easier than the before puzzle. Total, it took me 6 hours, 47 minutes, and 8 seconds, which is quicker than a 1,000-piece puzzle normally takes me. I have some notes here as well. I did solve the murder, and I will go over that right now. So the murderer was one of the dogs, and that was what I thought. I thought maybe it was Mr. Fleetick's own dog or one of the other dogs, and then I thought maybe it could have been everyone, a combined effort. So I went through some of the clues. I couldn't solve it on my own, so I did read the solution. And from what I got from the solution was we did have the puncture wounds on the body, and those were actually from dog bites. And they say that Mr. Fleetick had jumped up on the balcony to defend himself from the dog, and that's how he slipped off. And they say it was Mr. Fetchett's Doberman, Snitzel, because he was the only one that wasn't in the picture. If you kind of go back in the video, I did a close-up of the puzzle, and you can see the Doberman is not in that picture with all of them wearing their party hats. And we also know that the Doberman had been trained by German police, so he knew the command word fast as attack. So when Miss Pedicure was telling the detective that she could hear Mr. Fleetick yelling down fast, he was actually yelling down fast. So he thought the Doberman's name was Fast, and that's because in the cards, in the birthday cards signed by everyone signed their own name as well as their dog's name. And Mr. Fetchett, for his dog, instead of writing Snitzel on the card, he wrote Fast. So Mr. Fleetick assumed that that was the dog's name, and that was the plan all along. So when he yelled down Fast, he thought he was saying the dog's name, but he was giving the command to the Doberman to attack, which is why he did. When you look at the dog show schedule, it also shows that Mr. Fleetick was only supposed to judge the Dobermans. That was it. So Mr. Fetchett had this all planned, but his plan was to be there when the attack happened and call it off. The reason he did this was because he was trying to remove Mr. Fleetick from the judging so he would have a better chance of winning Best in Show. So that's it. Let me know who you thought it was in the comments down below. Reviews on the puzzle. I thought the puzzle was really great. The pieces are great quality. It was really fun to put it together. I actually really enjoyed this, and I would love to do something like this again. The only thing that I didn't like, I was a little disappointed. They said that there's no picture on the box, no picture inside, which there wasn't. But if you look on the box here, we have the beagle wearing the party hat. And if you go back in the video, you can see that there is the beagle wearing the party hat here. So I was a little disappointed that the puzzle kind of matched the box. I was hoping it was going to be totally different. And the theme, of course, matched the box as well. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it would just be totally unrelated. But I thought it was really fun. Really enjoyed this one, and I couldn't wait to find out who the murderer was. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of piecing together new adventures and unlocking new challenges together.